Hi, it's Nick from Nick's Handmade Crochet, and today I'm just going to make a beanie using a very basic method, which I want to share with you. I have shared it on a previous video before of making a beanie, but I'm hoping that this tutorial will work out a bit better as I'm trying to improve my teaching via a tutorial. So I will pop up a little table which I used before, and I think it's quite handy if you don't really have a pattern or you really want to customize a beanie to a certain head circumference. And I'm going to make a size, roughly a size to fit a 1 to 3 year old. Which would equate to a head size of about 19 inches. So the hat size will turn out a slightly smaller because it will have a bit of stretch. So let's get started. So the chart that I'm using suggests for a 1 to 3 year old beanie size that I need to crochet until my diameter reaches about 5.4 inches. So let's aim for that. So I'm going to use a 4mm hook, stitch marker. I've got a needle for sewing in any ends, some scissors. This is a really cute, appropriate size beanie, pom-pom for the beanie that we're making, and this gorgeous little attachment for the pom-pom at the end, which I think is really cute. So you can take the pom-pom out and wash the beanie without the pom-pom. I have also used pom-poms that have a clip, so you can clip your pom-pom on and off. But I thought this was really cute, so let's use that once we get to the end. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is make a magic ring. So I'm just going to bring my yarn, that's the tail end here, bring my yarn over my fingers. I'm going to slide my hook through the circle here and just pull up that yarn through the middle. A bit of dexterity needed. I'm just going to bring my working yarn to the back, and I'm just going to secure my stitch on that magic ring by bringing that yarn through. All right, so we're going to make, I'm going to chain up 2, and I'm going to make 12 double crochet into this magic ring. And I've shown a double crochet before, but if you're new, it's with your hook. You put the hook under, so you're yarning over the hook. You're bringing your hook into the middle of the circle, then you grab your yarn and rotate it a little bit. You will need to hold on to the yarn, your work, as you're going, just to steady it. So I've now got 3 pieces of yarn on my hook. I'm going to grab that, bring that just through 2 loops. I have 2 loops on my hook, and then bring that through. So we're going to repeat that again into the magic ring. 3 loops on the hook, bring it through 2, bring it through 2. And we're going to continue this until we have 12, excuse me, lost that. I'm just going to pull the yarn, the end of the yarn tail, just pull that a bit to reduce the circle. And it's a little bit easier to work in now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need another 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to grab the yarn tail, the end there, and just pull that tight, and that will close up the hole. I'm not going to crochet over that yarn tail because I want to have access to it until the end, so I can just pull that a little tighter, and then I will sew that in quite a few times to secure it. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, so we are going to slip stitch to join all these stitches to make it a circle. So slip stitch is putting your hook through that stitch, grab it, rotate, pull through there, and then we're just pulling that through again. All right, so that will be our stitch. So now I'm going to chain 2. Now I'm not going to count that chain 2 as a stitch. I just like, it will create a seam, but it will close it up a bit so it's a bit tighter at the end. So I'll show you when we get round. So now we're going to do an increase round. So this is our first stitch here, and we're going to do 2 stitches, 2 double crochet into that 1 stitch, and you can see that that first chain that we did is slightly hidden, and I'm going to put my stitch marker in this first stitch that we did, the first double crochet, just so that we know when we've come round to the beginning where we're going to put our next stitch. So what we're going to do is increase in every stitch around. So if you hear that increase, it just means that we're going to do 2 stitches into the 1 stitch from the row below. So we've done 2 in the first, 1, 2 in the second, 2 stitches in the third, 2 double crochets into the fourth, that'll be 2 into the fifth, 2 into the sixth stitch, 2 into the seventh, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that means we have 24. So each row is going to increase by 12. And you can see why it's important to have your stitch marker here, because this sort of looks like a stitch, but it's just the stitch that is made from slip stitching and joining that creates a side stitch. So we can take that out now. So that's the second round. So we're going to do another row of increases, and the sequence for increasing in a hat, or the base of a basket, or a coaster, or a water bottle bag holder, is even if you're doing some amigurumi, the toy making, is usually the same. So we start with our initial stitches, then we increase in every stitch around. Now we're going to increase in every second stitch. So we're going to chain up just to get the height. I'm going to put one stitch back in the same spaces where we slip stitch in, where I did that chain. Excuse me. And I will pop the stitch marker in the top of that stitch, not the top of the chain 3, because I don't want to count that chain 3. And you can see it closes by doing that extra chain. It closes up between the last stitch and the first stitch. So it will have a bit of a seam, but I think it's still okay. And you can have that at the back of your head. All right, so we've done 1 double crochet into the first stitch, and the sequence is 1 double crochet, then an increase. So that's 2 double crochet into the next stitch, 1 into the next stitch, and then an increase. So that's 2 into the next stitch. Now we're going to work that all the way around, and the sequence for the hat will be your initial stitches, 2 stitches into every stitch around. We'll do 1 crochet and then 2 stitches into the next. The next round will be 2 stitches and an increase, then 3 stitches, then an increase, 4 stitches and an increase, and so on. So you don't really need a pattern, you just need to remember a sequence. So let's just continue with that. So I have 1 stitch and my increase, so 2 stitches there, 1 stitch, 2, 1 double crochet, oh that's a bit loose, tighten that up, 1 double crochet followed by an increase, so that's 2 stitches into the next, 1 double crochet followed by an increase. So I will see you when we get back to the beginning. Okay, so I've finished that 3rd round, and that was the chain 2 that I did at the beginning, and this 3rd stitch you can see here, that's the top of the first double crochet, so that's where we're going to pop in and do a slip stitch. So this yarn's lovely and it's really easy to get through under the stitch, the 2 little V's there, and pull that through and pull that through. All right, as per the sequence and the method I'm using, so I'm doing chain 2. Now I'm just going to put 1 double crochet back in that same space where we'd slip stitched and done the chain 2, and I'm going to pop in my stitch marker at the top of that double crochet. So the sequence for this round is 1 double crochet, then another double crochet, so that's 1, 2, and then our increase, so 2 double crochet into that next stitch, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, then an increase. So that's the pattern for this round. Sorry that light's not so great, to work on that. All right, 1 double crochet, second double crochet, and then an increase. So I'll finish that and I will see you at the end of that round, and you should be finishing every round on a double crochet because that's the sequence that I've chosen for this particular pattern. So I'll see you when we get back round to the end of that this fourth round. All right, so I finished that fourth round and I'm just going to check to see where we're up to in terms of measurement. So those 4 rounds is about 4 inches. So we want to get to about 5.4, 5.5 inches for the size that we're making. So we'll still have another maybe 1 or 2 rows rounds to go. And the other thing is to check your stitch count, and your circle should be flat if you're using the right hook for the yarn and the appropriate number of stitches to start. All right, so disregard those chain 2 that we did to start and slip stitch to the top of this round, I should say. All right, we're going to chain 2 again. Disregard that as not counting that as a stitch. And you can see there is a bit of a seam, but I don't mind it so much. Once you've finished, it won't be extremely obvious. You'll know because of how you've constructed this hat. All right, so again, we're going to put a double crochet, which is our first stitch of the round, into the same space as where we slip stitched and did that chain 2. Pop in our stitch marker. And because we did 2 crochets and then the increase, this round will be 3 crochets and then an increase. So I've done 1 more in the next stitch, 1 more in the next, so that's 3. And now I'm going to do my increase. And another method of checking if you're on track in terms of where your stitches are in increase, the increase for this round will be going on the second stitch of the increase from the row below. I don't know if you can see that, but that was my increase from the row before, and now I'm increasing on the second stitch of the increase. 1, 2, 3, and where I'm going to increase, it's lining up with that second stitch of the increase from the row below. 3. Or you can use your inner child and count like Count Dracula off Sesame Street. 1, 2, 3 double crochet, increase. 1, 2, 3, increase. All right, continue that and I'll see you when you get round to the end. All right, so I've come to the end of the 5th round and I have 60 stitches. My measurement is about 5.2 inches. So I can either decide to stop there and then it'll be roughly for up to a 1-year-old. I can do 1 more round, I'll see where it goes to. So I think I'm just going to make it on the slightly larger size because the chart I'm using says the larger size is a 1 to 3-year-old. So I'm going to make it a little bit larger, and kids will grow into a hat. So you can just do it slightly bigger. So let's see how we go with one more round. So ignoring that chain 2, and this is where my stitch marker was, I can really easily see that stitch. Slip stitch, we've got a chain 2. One. All right, so I did another round, measured it, and then pulled it all apart back to the beginning of this round, 1, 2, 3, round 5. So I've still got my 60. Just because the extra increase took it to way over 6 inches, which would make this hat suddenly, instead of for a 1 to 3-year-old, for a 6 to 10-year-old. So just that one extra row changes the outcome of the size of our beanie. So I'm going to stick to these 5 rows and my 60 stitches, and we're just going to continue with the beanie with that diameter. So from now on, there's no more increasing. What we're going to do is just 1 double crochet in every stitch around until we get to the length of the beanie, which we desire. So it can just be a regular tight fitting beanie, or you can do extra length to make it more of a slouchy beanie. So I've just gone back to where this chain 2 is, and I'm going to go back and do my double crochet. Pop my stitch marker there. And all we're going to do now is 1 double crochet in each of those stitches around. 1. So you don't have to worry so much about counting. I'd still check each row just to make sure that you haven't accidentally missed a stitch or done 2 stitches into the one, done an accidental increase, because that is really easily done, and especially with the colour or the type of yarn you're using, sometimes it's harder to see. And I just know that when I first started crocheting, that my stitch count would suddenly be really off, and I just learnt that I just like to check every round, and even if you try counting as you're going, you might get distracted. So just take a minute to count at the end of your round. So what will happen now is the circle will start to fold in a little bit. So that's okay. Don't freak out if it starts to fold, because we want it to change shape to come down the side of the head and down to the brow. So I'm just going to continue this. I'm going to check my stitches when I get to the end, and I should still have 60, and I'll see you when we get back. All right, so I've finished that first round of 1 double crochet into every stitch around, and I've counted and I still have my 60 stitches, so I'm still on track. And you can see that it's going to start to curve in. And so that's the desired effect that we want now. If that's happening before you finish your increase rounds, then something's a bit amiss, but we actually want that now. So I'm going to slip stitch to my first stitch of my round. I'm going to chain 2 and I'm going to just repeat that until I get to the desired length. I've just done my second round and I just wanted to remind you about, yes, my stitch marker is here, and I know I've come to 60 stitches around here, but I just wanted to make you aware of this stitch again here where we slip stitch, and it looks like a stitch, but it's not. So if your stitch count is out, you might have accidentally added an extra one here. So when you get to the end, there's my stitch marker, then I go back 1, 2 and 3. So you need to have 3 stitches from your stitch marker. Don't accidentally add in another stitch here. That will be above your chain 2. So I just wanted to point that out. Even though you can't see that gap here, when you get to the end of your round, that might confuse you a little bit. All right, so let's keep going. Okay, so I have done in total 10 rounds of just double crochet. So I had the 5 rows of increase and I've done another 10. So I have in total 15 rows of crochet, rounds of crochet that I have done. And I'm just going to measure that. And it's given me about 6.5 inches to the base. And you could finish it off there or do a couple more rows and just leave it as is. But I'm going to put a brim. Now this brim, I like it because it's a little stretchy, and I do like working top down to my beanies. There are some methods that start from bottom with a brim and then work up and decrease. I like this because I feel like it gives me a bit more flexibility. So with the ribbing that I'm going to do, it's called making posts, front post and back post, and it sounds a bit complicated, and it does just take a little bit of patience and skill to do, but I really love the outcome and the stretchiness and just how it fits on your head. So I could just do just some single crochet rows around, just to make it a small, very basic brim. But we're going to do a back post, front post ribbing. So let's get started with that. All right, so let's start on making our brim for our hat. So as normal, I'm just going to chain up 2. And what I'm going to do is a double crochet, but what we're going to be doing is, instead of crocheting into each stitch at the top here, we're going to crochet around the post. So the post is the side of the stitch. So we're doing double crochets, but we're just going to alternate between doing it in the going into the front of the loop for the front side of the hat, to then going around the back. So we're going for the post, but we're coming from the back side of our work. So it can be a little bit frustrating and tricky, but the end result is really good. There is another version with doing front posts. So you do 1 crochet into the post and then 1 onto the stitch. But sometimes I think it's a bit hard to work out which stitch you're going into. So let's just do this method first. So I've chained up 2. I'm going to start my double crochet, and instead of going into the stitch, so under the V there, I'm going to put my hook into the space from the previous chain 2, and this is the double crochet post. I'm going to go into there. I'm going to grab my yarn as if I had gone through the stitch, and I'm bringing that through to that side of the post. So I still end up with 3 stitches on my loops on my hook, and I'm just going to finish the double crochet. So I'm going to bring through 2 and bring through 2. So I've done a double crochet, but instead of going into the stitch here, pulling through and doing my double crochet, I have just yarn over, and instead of going here, I'm just going around the post. All right, so to get the effect that I want for this particular brim, I'm now going to do another double crochet, but I'm going to come from the back side of my work to get around that post. So this is the harder part of doing a crochet around a post, is going from the back side. All right, so starting my double crochet, and I'm coming, so that's where you would normally go. I'm going to pass that and go around, come in through the hole here and go on the other side. I'm going to grab my yarn as usual and bring it through, but I've got to bring it through both those holes on the side, draw it up to the height of the stitch, and now I can finish my double crochet. So we've done 1 in the front, 1 in the back, and you can see how that is in the front of the stitch and that is behind where the stitch is there. So this pattern is alternating between going in the front part of the stitch, coming the front part here into the hole, or going back, so from behind and into the space here to get around the post. So we've done 1 to the front, 1 to the back. Now we're coming back to the front, so we start our stitch, yarn over, and as we would, we're going into the space beside the post, and we're coming into the side opposite. Sorry. I'm going to grab our yarn and pull it through so that we can see all 3 loops, and we finish our double crochet. So that's the one in the front. Now we need to go from behind. So we're coming through the holes to get around the post and then finishing our stitch. We're going from behind this time, so we're coming through the first hole, going over the post and into the second hole, so that we can grab our yarn, bring it through to the back, finish our double crochet. Start our double crochet, go into the hole, put our hook through the other side of that post, grab our yarn, bring that through, finish the double crochet. Yarn over, come from behind your stitch, go through the hole, over the post, grab your yarn, bring it all the way through to the back. So that's the difficult part of a back post, is managing that. The front post I find is a bit easier because you can see what you're doing. So we're yarning over. We go into the hole on the side of the post. We bring our hook through the other side, through the hole on the other side of that post. We grab our yarn. We've got to bring it back behind the post. 3 stitches on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through the 2. So back post again now, yarn over, go behind your stitch into the space. We're going over the post this time, grabbing our yarn, bringing it through that hole through the other side and bringing it to the back of our work. Then we finish the double crochet. Front post, over the front of the stitch, into the hole. So we're going around the post, grabbing our yarn, bringing the yarn up. So we have 3 stitches on our hook, yarn over, bring through 2, bring through 2. So the effect that we're setting up for this first round: front post, back post, front post, back post. And all that means is that we're working to the front around the post of the stitch and then behind, going from behind our stitch to work around the post. So we're going to continue this all the way around. So I hope that's enough to get you started, and I'll meet you back when we come back to the chain 2 in the beginning of our row. All right, so I've finished doing my very first round of my brim, and so it gives a texture on either side which is identical. So a post sticking out there and then a stitch of a post sticking out here. And I've got even numbers and I've finished on a back post. So I'm not going to count my chain 2 again. I'm going to slip stitch to join. I'm going to chain 2, and we're going to work the same pattern of a front post and back post all the way around. So your front post should match where the front post of the previous row went, and your back post will be similar to where the back post of the previous row will be. So I've chained 2, yarn over, and I'm going to go around the post of that first front post double crochet of the row before. So I'm putting my hook behind that first post, but I'm coming from the front. So I'm going over the front of my work. I'm going to put my hook on one side to the other side, and finished my double crochet. Now we're going to go to the back and yarn over, and we're going to put our hook on the inside of the hat there, so on the back of that stitch, and we're going to come through the hole here. We're going to go over that post. It's not as obvious as the front post, and go through the hole. We're going to grab our yarn. We've got to bring it through so it lines up to the height of these stitches here. Finish, yarn over, and we're going to go over the front post this time. So we're coming to the front of our work, put our hook in the space and around the post and through the space on the other side of the post. We grab our yarn and we've got to pull it through and finish our stitch. And of course my battery is just getting a bit low, so I'm just going to stop for a minute to charge. If we continue that pattern all the way around, front post, back post, and I will show you what it looks like when we get to the end. All right, so this is after I've done my second row of my front post, back post, and you can see the effect here, and it just has a bit of stretch. I find that it just sits nicely around the forehead. So that's just my particular view and my preference for doing a brim. And as I said, you can do single crochet just all the way around just to give it, to tidy it off. But I'm probably going to do another 2 or 3 rows of this, and then I might finish just with a single crochet because I like having a slightly thicker brim. So I'm going to continue with that. So again, I've finished with a back post here, and I'm going to ignore the chain 2 and just slip stitch to the top of that. Now I'm going to chain 2 again, and my first post is here, not the chain 2. So I'm just doing a double crochet, and we've done double crochets for the whole of the hat, but we're just making that stitch around the post rather than into the stitch. So we're going to continue. I'm going into the space either side of that post. I'm going to grab my yarn and pull it through, which I would do making a regular double crochet, bring through 2, bring through 2, and now we're going to do the back post, which just means we're going to go to the back side of that stitch, yarn over. We're still going to come through the hole, over the post, through the other hole, grab our yarn, bringing that through to the back and finishing off the double crochet. So I'm going to continue this method for a couple more rounds, and then we'll have a beanie made. And this yarn is really, really lovely to work with. It's soft, it's not too stiff, a little bit of stretch, which is lovely, and the colourway of this ombre yarn is beautiful. So really happy with the purchase of this yarn. So I'll see you when I get back after I've done a couple more rounds of my front post and back post stitches. Oops. See you soon. All right, so I finished doing a couple more rounds of my brim, and this is how it's looking. As I said, I just like this texture and how it looks, just to add a bit more texture to the actual beanie, especially if you're just doing a basic beanie with no pattern, you're just going around. And I do like, as I said, I do like the top down beanie because you start and then you finish. You got the one beginning tail at the top to sew in, and then when you finish you've just got the last one to sew in. So it's pretty straightforward. One stitch marker just to show where your beginning and ending of each round is. If I point out where that chain 2 is, you can see it, but really you have to know that you've done that to really to see it. I don't think it's way too obvious. Depends, you know, and if it's on the side when you're wearing it, you're not going to really see it. It's hidden on the bend or on the crease there. So I'm just going to tie this off and sew in the end, and then I'm going to pop the pom-pom on and show you that little pom-pom with the attachment that I bought from the little company Yarn Over Yarn Under. So we'll get to that in a minute.